What's up, gang? Welcome to the Greatness Machine. I'm your host, Darius and Jack. I'm so pumped to have you here with me. Now, listen, the Greatness Machine, we're about two things. Number one, people who are living their passions. And number two, those who are creating greatness in the world and doing both of these things despite the odds against them. Each episode, we're going to feature interviews with game changers, business leaders, telling us their origin stories, what made them tick, what got them to where they are now. Why? So it can help you step into your greatness within your life, your business, and your career. Occasionally, you might hear a few solo episodes from myself, moi as I say, as I leverage my 20 years of entrepreneurship as a CEO and founder to help you grow and level up in your journey to scale your life and your business. So, come be a fly on the wall, enjoy the conversation, and I'm stoked to have you here with me. Guys, welcome to today's episode of The Greatness Machine. I'm your host, Darius and Jack, and boy, do we have an amazing guest, my man, the living legend, Jack Daly is in the house. What's up, Jack?
Darius, great to see you. Don't see you enough, but I'm really enjoying the fact that I've been invited back to spend some time with you.
The feeling is more than mutual, my friend. Do you mind if I do a little bit of housekeeping, and then we're going to dive right into this show? Does that work for you?
Let's go.
Awesome. So for listeners who are new to the show, The Greatness Machine, we're about two things. We're about people who are living their passions and those who've created greatness in the world and doing so despite the odds. And I was saying to Jack before the show, I said, he asked me, he said, how am I doing? And, what's the show all about? We're having some back and forth. And I said, the show's really turned into a human performance show. How do you show up to be your best, squeeze the juice out of life? And as I was saying it, I said, and I can't think of a person that is not more the living embodiment of that statement than Jack Daly. So, man, I'm so pumped to have you back on the show. So much gratitude here. Let's get this party started, man. I want to tell a little bit of our backstory because I met Jack 2009, New York City, Tavern on the Green. He had come to, I was in the Birthing a Giants program, graduated from that, and we did a year 4 ourselves. We John Ratliff, and myself and Andy Bailey and a bunch of those cats, we organized a year 4 for ourselves, and we had 2 amazing speakers that day, that weekend that really stood out. If you said who are your 2 favorite speakers, and it's an equal. I can't. You're gonna appreciate this. It was like Jack Daly, Simon Sinek. It was like those were the 2 people that blew my mind that weekend. And so I met him in New York City. Right near the Central Park. And it was funny because this is 14 years ago. My business was just absolutely getting crushed. I was a subprime mortgage lender, and Jack made some comment like, "Oh, it's a tough business." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks, man." So I didn't, and you had mentioned that you actually had a background in the business too, and I have since learned that that was one part of your life, and now you've since gone on to such amazingness after that part of your life. But it really struck me. I really walked away from that meeting, implemented a lot of Jack's work into my companies from that point forward, and man, you've just been a mentor from afar ever since, and it's been amazing to watch the work that you've done and continue to do. And I'm so just, I guess, proud to know you and to get to have you in my life, even if it's a small amount. And here we are today. So welcome back to the show.
Well, I need to make my way to Austin more often, and then I could have a shot at you, right?
Yeah. If you're ever in town, I know we have some mutual friends here. But yeah, if you're ever in town, let's let me know. But well, I'm going to take full advantage of the virtual thing right now. So, do you mind if I give it your formal bio, and then I'd love to jump into a little bit of your backstory, origin story, your new book, all that good stuff. But I'd love to kind of give the formal bio really quickly, and then we'll jump into that. Does that work for you, Jack?
Cool. Yeah.
Awesome. So, as I mentioned, look, to boil it down, Jack is a human performance badass. Okay, has been in business many decades, and really, I would venture to say the last probably 2 decades has been really focused on going out, working with high growth companies, helping them become sales machines, really high growth sales machines, monetizing their business through sales. Jack's probably whenever people ask me, they say, "Hey, who could we bring in to help us really like turbocharge our sales?" I'm like, "You should talk to Jack Daly. The guy's a fucking machine," and that's a technical term, by the way. So that's when I think of Jack. It's really just someone that is super accomplished in so many walks of life. He's an accomplished author, many books, audio, DVD programs, has led sales forces in the thousands, and really has this massive history of working with companies and helping them really level up to the next level. And I'm so pleased today to really talk about his newest book, Life by Design, Your Path to an Exceptional Life. I told Jack, so I'm going to keep it short because really nothing's going to do this more justice than the conversation we're about to have. But yeah, man, you are really, like I said before, the living embodiment of someone that really squeezes the juice out of life. And I'd love if you don't mind, like, give our kind of your backstory, a little bit of your backstory to our audience, just to get to know you a little better, and then we can jump into a lot of the stuff you're working on right now.
Yeah, so I appreciate the intro and again the opportunity to share with some people. So, real succinct. 7 years old was my first sales job. Owned the market, charged twice the price of every kid I competed with. Fell in love with sales right out of the get go. Couldn't understand why kids would want to play tag and hide and seek when nobody's paying you to stand behind a tree and be silent. Sounds like time out today. And so that was my first cut of my teeth into sales. By the age of 12, I built my first company. At 13, I had 5 employees. They're doing most of the work. I'm keeping most of the money. This seems to work for me. And then I got formally educated. And then between 26 and 46 years old, I took a blank sheet of paper 6 times, sketched a business on it, convinced other people to help me build them. All 6 companies went nationwide, 2 of which I sold to Wall Street, First Boston and Solomon Brothers. And then at 46 years old, Darius, I lost my passion for what I was doing. And you and I have talked about this before. If you don't have that, you don't have anything. I don't think you can be successful unless you're doing successful. It's something that you're passionate about. So pulled the plug on business and said, I'll figure out what I'm going to do next. Then the phone started ringing, people going, hey, I hear you're not doing anything. Can you talk to my company? Can you talk to my trade group? Can you do this? And all of a sudden I found myself in the professional speaker world, which basically I've been in for probably close to 30 years now. That's it.
Wow. I love that. What an elevator story there. So let me ask a question, because something you just mentioned earlier, and I know that the new book, the word design is a word I love. A lot of times folks will ask me, they'll say, like, oh, here's Darius, he's an entrepreneur, he's a CEO, they'll kind of try to describe me to people, which is a tough description probably in general. But I said, no, I don't think of myself like that. I think of myself as a designer. I design businesses, I design outcomes, I design what I want to create. And so what I heard you just say is this really, and correct me if I'm wrong, you said 6 times you've taken a blank sheet of paper and drawn out an outcome. Um, first and foremost, that's insane. What is it like? What is it about that really sticks with you? Why is it that I'm taking out this blank sheet of paper, I'm going to draw something? Tell us a little bit about that, what that process is. Why do you do it that way? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Here's a way of getting your arms around it. If I'm in front of an audience and I ask how many people by a show of hands would like to be more successful than you are already, how many hands in the room are up? All
All of
of them, right?
all of them.
Now, if I leave the stage and go down into the audience with a mic and say, okay, so what does success mean to you? Crickets.
Hmm.
Now, you can't get there unless you know what there is. So defining what it is that you want to be when you grow up, defining what it is that you want to do in the future, is the start point. I, look, Stephen Covey was a lot better with words than me. Begin with the end in mind, right? And so I got really fortunate, Darius, as a teenager. So at 13 years old, I had at least 50 successful people, however you want to define success. I had about 50 of these people, adults, vest in me. And I interviewed them and I wanted to know how they achieved their success. And I found patterns. And one of the patterns I found was this: you got to have goals. They got to be in writing or they don't count. Don't pick too many. Pick a date or some evidence of completion and share them with as many people as possible, because it'll increase accountability and the probability of you achieving them. And so I started with that process that you asked me about, of figuring out what do I want to be when I grow up. I started that process at 13 years old. My first cut at the blank sheet of paper was, what did I want to look like in 4 dimensions of my life at the age of 30? Because if I could figure out where I want to be at 30, at 13, then it's a process of connecting the dots. And by the way, that process continues to this day. So this goes with me everywhere. and it's just my logbook of every day, writing down everything I do that day that
Mm,
relates to my personal goals, which I keep in the front of that log. And this is everything I want to do this year. And it is ready to go the first of the year. Well, here's what I want to tell you, Darius, is I have 60 of these for
mm.
60 years. I'm 74 years old, and I have done this every year since I was 13 years old. The process works. The process works.
Let me ask you a question, because I'm a person, and I've kind of, like I said, I kind of gone through this big change in my life over the last few years. I was a person that would set these really audacious goals, especially when I was kind of similar to yourself. You're much more organized than I am. I'm a very disorganized person, but I would pick big goals and go and fight like hell to make them come to life. And one of the things that I struggled with that, for maybe achievers that are listening to this, and I've actually found this to be true with, I've spoken about this with friends of mine who are high level achievers, and where they struggle with the same thing I have, which is when I hit the goal, I would just not, I don't know, I didn't feel like celebratory about it. It just kind of felt like I checked the box and then I move on. What are your like? And so it got a little bit, I guess, discouraging for me, because I felt like it was a hedonic, they call it what, the hedonic treadmill, right? Where I was like, oh well, like, and I'll use my business example. I said, oh, I just want to build a $10 million company. And I remember when I met you, my $10 million company had turned into a $2 million company, which is probably why I was in bad headspace. But I had fought like hell, grown it almost there, and then the business imploded. So, but I almost got there, and I said, all right, well, I didn't hit it, but I'm going to build $100 million company now. And I didn't even hit the 10, but I bumped the number up just because I was like, I'm going to pick a bigger number. And then I did hit that number. And then I hit 200 million. And then it just felt like nothing. I like wasn't like, and I can remember like dreaming about it, and I noticed a trend in my life that I was a person that would set these big goals, and I did this in lots of parts of my life. But once I hit it, there was no like moment. It was just like, oh, whatever, next goal. Like, are you a person that like celebrates your goals? Like how do you not fall into that trap? Because I feel like that's a trap. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
It's a great question. It's a very, very cool perspective to have. Uh, so I'm going to answer it on a number of dimensions. I guess the first one, with authenticity, I want to give you a little picture into me. Quite frankly, I enjoy checking the boxes. Like, it doesn't need celebration. I just like checking the boxes.
Mm,
But I think the thing that I got out of the way you phrased the question is this: so many business people um, measure themselves in achievement uh, um, primarily or exclusively around their business. I'm all about loving what you do. I'm all about loving the business that you're in, but I'm not a single dimension guy. And in
right.
fact, I believe that whatever the success I drive through my business, I do so that I can replug it, reinvest into opportunizing everything else in life. Uh, and whatever that might mean to an individual. So, as an example, I have over 400 items on my bucket list. Um, Over 300, I've checked the box. And some of them are some very big items, like run a marathon in all 50 states. Now, on somebody's bucket list, it might say run a marathon, a
Right.
single marathon, right? And I don't put that down. That's a hell of an achievement. But after I put run a marathon in all 50 states, I mean, rather, when I put run a marathon on my bucket list and I check the box, well, 10 years later, I'm running a marathon for my 10th marathon in 10 years because I decided this is probably a good thing for my health. Run one a year. You got to stay in shape all during the year to run a marathon. So my 10th one's in Los Angeles, and a guy goes by me with a shirt on the back. It says I ran a marathon in all 50 states. I catch back up with him and I asked him about it. He said there's a club on the internet. I go on the internet to look at the club and I'm going, that sounds like a great bucket list. So I add it to the bucket list. I add it to my life. Uh,
Mm,
and then I just started saying, what else do I want to do in life? What are some crazy things and what are some really cool things? Uh, and so if the listener, if the viewer were to go and check out my website called jackdalyslifebydesign.com, half of my book I put on my website so you can download it. Half of the book is the appendix with all of what I've done and accomplished, but it's also the process, the forms that you can use to enable yourself to lead this exceptional life. So I flew a jet fighter plane with
Oh wow.
no flying instructions. I mean, that to me is just wild and crazy. Here I am in the cockpit of a jet fighter plane, and all it was about was, well, that would be kind of fun. I saw Top Gun, and I'm going, well, I'd like to do that, but I don't want to go through the whole learn how to fly a jet fighter plane. I wonder if you could pull that off. Um, and the box got checked.
How'd you do that one? Because that's actually on my list. I'm curious how you went about it. Did you
Uh,
like go to like one of those schools?
Look, you've heard this expression before. You got to put it out in the universe. So I go public with my bucket list everywhere I go. It's on both of my websites, my business website and my Jack Daly Life by Design website. And so a YPO member saw it on my bucket list and said, "Is that still open? Or have you checked that box?" I said, "No, it's open." And he emails me a photo of a jet fighter plane he bought from the U.S. Air Force, and said, "Would this qualify?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." And he said, "Oh, now all we need to do is figure out where and when," and off we'll go. And so uh, it's crazy stuff. I wanted to wrap a snake around my neck, and so I've got this 20-foot python all wrapped around me, yellow snake, and some people go, "Well, that doesn't sound like that big of a deal." Well, it's just fun, right?
I
And
love
so
it.
I've got a mix of really cool things and not, and then just frivolous things. You know, on the list right now is meet a president of the United States in the Oval Office, not on a tour, but I've been invited to come and meet the president. I don't care which one, just get in the Oval Office. And by the way, when I put that down, I said, and let's do another item and get on Air Force One and take a flight on that. And by the way, I didn't put this on my bucket list, but I'm thinking if I were to do both of those, it probably happened the same day, and I grabbed the helicopter ride on the way from the Oval Office to the jet fighter plane. This is the screwy way of me thinking, but people look at all the things that I'm doing, Darius, and they're like, "Holy mackerel! It's amazing all the stuff that you're packing into your life." We all are given the same number of hours, 168 hours a week. Some of us are getting more out of it than others. I think the guys that get the most out of life have figured out what they want their life to be.
So for you, when did I mean? Obviously, you've been goal oriented. Obviously, for it sounds like most of your life, if not your entire life. When did you start really like this evolve into these bigger, more audacious goals, or was it always like that?
Everything starts small and then becomes the bigger, audacious goals, right? Um, so I moved to California from the East Coast in 1985. I still live in California today. I came here to build a business, and I started with 3 people, and 18 months later, we're 750 employees and no acquisitions, all organic growth, crazy, crazy growth, right? First 3 years in business, profits of 42 million bucks. But um, I got here, and one of my employees said, they're running a charity race for the Heart Fund, and it starts at our office, and it's a 5K. And you want to do that? And I'm like, well, I've never done a 5K before. What is a 5K? Well, it's a little bit more than 3 miles. I can do that. And so I knocked this 5K out. It was exhausting. I mean, like that's for me, that was a long way. And I'm in my mid 30s. And then I got home and I said to my wife, you know what? It would be kind of fun to train for one of those and see how good I get. So all of a sudden I became a 5K junkie. And then I couldn't find one. And then I found a 10K. So I went, I'll do a 10K. And then I went from there and did a half marathon. So now all of a sudden, I love my wine. I got a great bottle of wine. I got my finisher medal. and a great meal that my wife made. And I said to Bonnie, my wife, I said, take my photo. And as she's taking the photo, I absolutely lost it and just start laughing. And she's going, what are you laughing about? I can't take a good photo with you just uproariously laughing. And I said, I can't remember ever in my life celebrating doing half of something. and, and she said, really? You're going to do a full marathon? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to put that on my bucket list. And then, as I said, I then did 10, and then I found this guy rounding by me with the shirt. And then I said to put it on to do all 50 states. I'm doing the 50 states. And then I see a club that's all 7 continents. Well, put the all 7 continents on the bucket list. And you meet people and they tell you incredible experiences of doing, have you ever done this? Have you ever done that? And, you know, here I am at 58 years old. 16 years ago, I decided that I'm going to do an Ironman. And I didn't know how to swim at 58 years
Wow.
old, and went on in the next 8 years to do 15 full Ironmans and about 50 halves. And, you know, each time I'm doing the bucket list and I'm putting it on how to lead an exceptional life, how to do some things that most people will never really get to do because they never take the time out to think about what is it that they want to do. What is fun?
What do you, well, I have a couple thoughts here. So, you know, obviously you being in the world of marathoning and the Ironman world, you know, Dave Goggins is pretty famous in the world of ultra marathons, and I got a little obsessed with his work earlier this year. And one of the things that stood out to me was this, like, kind of like embracing the suck, right? It's something, doing something hard. And Jesse Itzler's doing something right now. He's riding his bike across the United States. Like, and there's a word for this in Japanese. It's around like challenging yourself just to see, just for the, like, the pleasure of seeing what you can do. How does, was that part of it for yourself? Is there something around like seeing what your limits are just to know them and seeing how far you can push past them? I'd love to hear about that.
I think there is, but I think for me, I think it's more end zone driven. Finishing what you start, no matter what the hurdle is, no matter what dimension of life. I'm a closer. I'm a finisher. That's what really compels me. I was doing a triathlon, Darius, and you know, if you ever seen the bikes that we ride in the triathlons, they got the real thin little wheels, right? Tires rather. And I'm 2 miles from the end of the bike. Now, the way those races go is swim, bike, run. That's the order. And as I'm making my way 2 miles to the end of the bike, it's a big turn and the road is wet and my wheel gives out and I realize I'm losing control of the bike. Now, what you're taught is don't put your arm out to brace the fall. You'll break your elbow. So your shoulder can take it. So hold on to the handlebars. So I hold on and then I start to slide down the road and my body is being shred on the blacktop. Legs, arm, blood all over the place. And I got up and I realized nothing broke. Well, that's not exactly true. Nothing broke on me. The wheel on my bike was broke. So I guess the race is over. But then I'm going, all I need to do is get the bike to the end of the bike race. And they don't say you got to ride it. So I'll just run with it on my shoulder. So I got this blood running down the left-hand side of me. I got the bike on my shoulder, and I'm running in cleats in the shoes that you bike in, right? And I finish, and there's the med tent right there. Right there is the med tent. And I look over at it, and I go, they can fix me, but I'm done. Let's go get the run done. And a mutual friend of ours, Tony Lilos, was at that race, and Tony's like looking at me running with the blood all running, and the black top is in my skin and stuff. And he's like, "What?" And I'm going, "I got to finish." And then I finish, and then I go in the med tent. They clean all the stuff out of me and all the rest of that, bandage me up, and then said, "We want to take you to the hospital to get X-rays to check and make sure that nothing's broke."
Wait, let me ask, I have two questions. Sorry, I have to ask this. How far did you run with the bike? How far of a run was it with the bike? And then how far did you run after you got the bike in?
Yeah, so it was 2 miles with the bike and to get to the end of the bike. And then I
In cleats, in cleats. Hold on, like listeners need to understand. Two, you just said. First of all, I just want to take us back for a second. He started this whole thing talking about how he ran three, like a little bit over 3 miles, and how he was exhausted. And then now we're at running in biking cleats, 2 miles, and then hold on. Sorry, please finish. And then how far was the run after that?
I think it was a half marathon, 13 miles. No, but I got
13.
wait a minute though. I got running shoes on for that part.
I know. Were you in pain, or did the pain kind of go away because of adrenaline and stuff like
Yeah,
that?
I didn't even feel it. Look, here's what I can tell you: 15 full Ironmans. Never have I raced an Ironman, a full Ironman, where I didn't somewhere want to quit. Every race, somewhere, I just said, "This is so hard. I am so hurting. Well, I've already done 2 of them, 5 of them, or whatever. I don't need this." No, you're there. Look, in Phoenix, the bike was 3 loops. At the end of the first loop, I hear the announcer say, "There goes Jack Daly racing comfortably in first in his age group." Now, I've never been first in my age group at that point. And by the way, if I finish first in my age group, I get to go and compete in the World Championship in Hawaii. And so I'm jacked up. The next 2 loops, 3 flats.
Oh,
You bring kits with you for 2 flats. So all of a sudden, I don't have the ability to fix my bike. I carry the bike again to an aid station. They phone somebody that's a race official. He comes out on a scooter, gives me the equipment to change the bike tire. And now I'm in the race, and I'm back in the back where people are riding bikes that have stuffed animals on the handlebars and baskets and horns and I mean goofy stuff. And I'm going, oh, are they real? I mean, I've never been back this far in the race. And I had done that race before. And I was there to win a spot to go to the World Championship. So I'm not going to get that. I rolled my bike in after 112 miles and 3 flats. And now I'm looking at a full marathon, 26.2 miles to run. And I put my bike in the rack and went, "You've already done this race. And like you're back here with everybody at the back of the pack. Just pack it in and go have yourself a beer." And then I went, "Are you real? Are you really? Really? Like, you came here to finish. Finish. Get out there and finish." And so you finish. That's
yeah.
the box.
I love it, man. And I mean, really, I think that there's something there around making a commitment to yourself and keeping it, right? Like keeping these promises with yourself. I mean, talk a little bit about that, because I think that that's a really, for me, that's something that I think for some people it's more innate than others, right? I think this is the habit of accomplishment versus the habit of quitting. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Um, so I already mentioned that I've never done a raced an Ironman without wanting to quit. Well, I've had 6 companies I started, 2 companies that I was asked to come in and turn around on top of those. So 8 companies at the leadership level. And when you get introduced as a speaker, all they tell the audience is all this great stuff about you. Like I had a company that was the 10th fastest growing company in the U.S. in '98, 10,100% growth. And
Wow.
that's what's used when they introduce me. What they don't say is that I stood in front of 275 people one day and let 240 go that day
Yeah.
because our company had gotten upside down. And I have a decision to make. Do I just shutter the whole place, or do I reconstitute it and see if I can resurrect it from the place it's at? So that's no different than carrying your bike so that you can go run a half marathon, right? I mean, it's the same type of thing. I'm in unbelievable health, and you know that. I'm an exercise nut. I've already put 2 hours in this morning of exercise. I'm not finished. Um, and I love that. And I'm in terrific. My resting heart rate is in the low 40s or 30s.
Wow.
I mean, it's just an incredible thing, right? Um, but on April 1st, 2020. By the way, what's happening in April of 2020?
Oh, this thing, I think it's called COVID. Yeah.
Ah, there we go. Uh,
Yeah.
April 1st, April Fool's Day, my doctor declares at the top of my head, I've got malignant melanoma stage 3 cancer. And he said, we got to get that removed like right away. And I said, well, what do you mean removed? And he said, I've got to operate you on, I'm we taking about the size of the palm of your hand off of your head with all the cancer in it. And he goes, so we got to get it on the calendar, put you in the hospital, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going, everything that I'm looking at on TV, people going in the hospital ain't coming back. They're not coming out. So how about if we delay the surgery? He said, if we wait longer than 30 days, you might not need it because you'll be dead.
Mm.
And I'm going, oh, okay. Wheel me in 2 weeks later, take the top of my head off we go, declared cancer free. Then 8 months later, it comes out of my neck, and I go through 54 weeks of cancer treatment, a couple $1 million of expense with all of the drugs that I needed to take and all that type of thing. And one of the reasons my hair is longer than you've ever seen it, and I know that because it's longer than it's ever been, is I'm growing my hair to donate it to a cancer patient, but I need 12
Mm.
inches. Uh, but I've just spent the last 2.5 years fighting serious cancer. Now I've been declared I won the battle, maybe won the war. I get a little bit of skirmishes every once in a while. 3 days ago, I had a little skin cancer removed off of my face. No big deal. Um, but 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 here's the thing. During COVID and battling cancer, my bucket list said I wanted to run 100 marathons and finish in the original in Athens, Greece. And I needed 5 more to get that done during the pandemic. And I got that done during the pandemic
Mm.
while being treated for cancer. That's
And
about the
what?
goal. That
So
it,
what? So let's talk about that though, because I think some folks might have heard that and been like, how do you even do that? Like you're not feeling well, you're going through cancer treatment, you got this goal. Is this just you're just like to your point earlier, like I'm end zone driven and I don't care how much it sucks, I'm just going to do it. Like what's the thought around that for
Yeah.
yourself at least?
So you recalibrate for me. I'm not going to win my age group. I'm not going to be on the podium. I'm here to start and here to finish. Right. Don't worry about your time. So my time on the marathon was 6 hours in Athens. 42K, the first 30K is uphill, so it's not an easy track. But 6 hours is an extreme for me in terms of time. I've qualified for Boston, uh, so
Wow.
I'm a sub 4 hour potential guy who's knocks sub fours down. Um, but but that was cause for celebration for me. Uh, I got it. I got it done in spite of whatever else was going on, right? Uh, and we just don't realize what we're actually capable of. And I don't mean that in just a physical way. I mean it in every dimension of life. We don't tap anywhere near what we've got in terms of capabilities. I tell this to salespeople all the time. The number one thing that holds them back from being a top producer is themselves. Their
Mm.
view of themselves, the story they tell themselves, is a story of less than what it could be.
Yeah. So what's interesting. I was talking to my mom about this last night. My mom just turned 70, and I said, for the first time in my life, I'm a person that like, again, being I consider myself a hardcore achiever, but I was also a super anxious person. I had a lot of, I mean, because I always anxious about achieving and then hitting that accomplishment and like moving on to the next. Not a great existence, I'll be honest with you. And when I was talking earlier about overcoming, the biggest thing I overcame was I'm zero anxiety, almost zero now. And I'm talking, I was a hardcore anxious. I had massive anxiety. I have almost zero. And the biggest change I had, going back to what you just said a moment ago, was I realized my self-talk was very abusive around achievement. Like, you better fucking go do it. And like, and it worked until I got tired of it. Right. But I reconstituted my self-talk. I changed my self-talk completely. And that changed my life in ways I can't even explain. Like, my mental health, when we started, you said, how you doing? I said, I've never been better. I said, because I talk to myself really well every day, all day long, regarding what I want to accomplish, the type of human I'm trying to be, how I want to show up. And I was talking to a forum mate of mine about this, and I love your feedback. And he said, so what's new? I said, man, I'm just about showing up and being who I'm supposed to be, to try to be who I'm supposed to be. And this is kind of my transition from goals is it's who am I trying to be? How do I want to show up? And then I take it day by day. Like, in order to, so I'll give an example. I'm starting a private equity fund. I have a private equity fund I literally just started, and I'm trying to raise our first $20 million. I've never raised $20 million before. But I said, well, who do I need to be to raise $20 million? And then I wake up every morning and I write a list of goals and I go and start doing them around what do I need to do today to show up to be that person. And a big part of it is telling myself, A, that I can do it.
Mhm.
And then B, taking those they're little micros. Like this morning before this, I was literally building a thing called DocuSend where I can take investors to look at. That's what I did all morning. It took me an hour and a half. That's the one thing I have to get done today. But this positive self-talk and micro steps have changed my life around goals, because in the past it was just like negative self-talk, beat yourself, big goal in mind, go work, and then do everything that you can to hit it. So I'd love to hear your thoughts, because I think some people might do it my old way, and some people may want to look towards my new way, which is, who am I trying to be and what steps do I need to take today? And I took something, I think this is from when I first met you. I have a list of 3 things I have to do every day. And I have it right now, sticky. I'm looking at it, and I get those 3 things done. I don't care what else I do. Those 3 things have to happen, and they're around who I'm trying to be. And so for me, what am I trying to be? I want to have great relationships with my family and friends, deep, great relationships. I want to be healthy, the healthiest version of myself every day. And I want to create impact in the world. And I have some definitions of those things, what those look like, but it's all around just showing up and doing the work. And a big part of that self-talk. So I'd love to I know that was a lot of stuff, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on maybe how I'm approaching this.
Um, so I just finished literally on my run this morning listening to Andre Agassi's book called Open. And
Ooh,
I'm really big on biographies, and
yeah.
I really like biographies of sports individuals, people that have had some success, and he talks extensively about that. The book, I highly recommend the book. It's called Open by Andre Agassi. He unpeels his skin, lets everybody in, and sees what that's all about. Um, I'm taking for the 4th time. I'm taking a group of about 40 people deep into the Grand Canyon, June 30th and July 1 this year, and we do something called the rim to rim to rim,
Yep.
and most of those guys are going to be 20, 30 years younger than me. So I'll be the old patriarch going through this thing, and it is not an easy deal. It's about 25 miles each way. It's about 330 flights of climbing each way. And in June 30th, July 1, the temperature is probably going to hit 115 Fahrenheit. So
Oh,
it's a slog. Okay. It's going to take 12 hours each way. But here's the deal. I've had so many people tell me this, Darius, that was life changing. The Grand Canyon for me was so life changing on this topic that when I die, I want to be cremated. I want part of my remains to go in the Pacific Ocean, where my wife Bonnie's are, part to go in the Atlantic Ocean, where her remains are, and then I want a portion to go in the Grand Canyon, because it chilled me out from the anxiety that I used to live my life in. So here's the deal. First time I go to Grand Canyon, I'm sitting there looking at the wall. And if you've ever been there, all the different colors represent all of the different ages. And it's millions of years on the wall. Now, if I led a life of significance of 100 years, and I'm talking about life where I really was impactful in the world, and I had 100-year life, If I tried to find it on that wall of millions of years, I couldn't find 1 year. I couldn't find 1 month. I couldn't find 1 week. I couldn't find a day. So that was it for me. I'm
Mm.
never having a bad day. I'm never going to be frustrated with anything ever again. The slate is clean. 100-year life of significance can't be found on that wall. Why am I getting upset with this? Why am I putting the pressure on me for this? Why am I self-inducing all of this stuff on me? I just finished this book um, on the airplane. Uh,
Which book is that?
um, it's A New Earth by
Okay.
Eckhart Tolle, and
Oh,
it was recommended and then given to me on my most recent trip to India last month. And it's the same thing. There's no yesterday, there's no tomorrow. The only thing there is now,
yeah.
like this second. And we don't have any control over yesterday nor tomorrow in many ways. Why not be enjoyment and at peace now? And we get to control that. So the book really reinforced. I'm scheduled to talk to the guy that gave it to me in India because it reinforces this love affair I have with the Grand Canyon. I am a different human for the last 25 years since the
Mm.
day that I sat there and contemplated that wall. And me taking 40 people in there in a couple months is the most joyful thing that I can do.
Oh man. So we have two mutual friends. Kevin Daum's going on that with you, and he invited me, and I'm like, oh, like shit. I'm like I don't think I'm in good enough. Is it walking or running or
It's
both?
walking. Yeah.
Oh, anyway, he I know did that in the last time you guys did it, and then
Right.
James Ashcroft would talk to me about the last time you guys did it. It sounds amazing, and my friend Marco Grogento went with you guys. Um, so that's amazing. I want to ask a question though. 25 years ago, so you were what, in late 40s? Is that correct?
Yeah.
So you're on the doorstep of 50. You have that moment. How did that change from a goal setting perspective? Did that change anything there? Because I'm actually kind of in that right now where I'm like, all right, man, I'm a person that's like slashed myself to achieve, whipped myself into achievement for 40 plus years. I had this realization last summer at 44, and a part of me got a little scared that I'm like, oh, am I not going to push to achieve? But it hasn't been the case. My approach is different, but so I'd love to hear like what changed for you besides appreciating the day and not having a bad day. Was it that the goals were still there? You still set the goals, but like you approach the goals differently? I'd love to hear about that.
Um, yeah. So I'm gonna do two things with that question. I'm gonna go further back in my life. So my wife and I met at 16 years old. We were together for 52 years, 47 of them married. I lost her to cancer 6 years ago. Um, but when Bonnie and I, early on in our marriage, got to kind of fill in the blanks on our history, all of 20 years of that's how old we were. Uh, uh, we discovered that our parents were having the same conversations in our respective houses. And here's one of the conversations: when we retire, we're going to do A, B, and C.
Mm,
When we retire, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. And both of our dads died around the age of 50. And I just said to Bonnie, that's never going to happen to us.
yeah,
We're going to lead an exceptional life by design, and we're going to sit down and you're going to write a separate sheet of all the things you want to do before you die, and I'm going to write mine, and then we're going to kind of discuss them and merge them and all that. We'll have a kind of a joint bucket list type of thing, and we're going to just start knocking these things off and sucking the marrow out of life, right?
yeah,
And we have, and we did. Um, so again, there's a pattern. It's the goals, right? But what happened in the Grand Canyon was as I don't want to lose the goals, and I want to make sure that I've got a whole lot of them that have nothing to do with business, that has to do with living an exceptional life, like
Mm,
unbelievable life, a life that people would be envious of. Wow, really? Wow, really? That's what I want, right? And how can I make a positive difference in the world, right? Now, that that got elevated early on in my life, in my 20s. But then when I sat there at the Grand Canyon that first time, I was so beating myself beating myself up. Literally, my armpits were always sopping wet. I was tense. I was just like there weren't enough hours in the day to
yeah.
do all the things I wanted to do, and and there was the wall. I can't find 100 years of an exceptionally led life. You need to chill, my man. You need to like chill out. And people that are going to listen to this that know me are going to go, really? Ever since I've known you, you're not chilled. Well, you had to see the former guy. Like, you're seeing me on stage. You're seeing me with my energy, but I am so chilled. And you brought up James Ashcroft, and he and I are just incredibly good friends. I have an incredible amount of respect for him. And quite frankly, on the last time I did Rim to Rim, the last 4 miles of the journey, he ended up taking my backpack from me because he was unsure whether I'd be able to make it. I was struggling, and there's a guy that I think has got himself packaged right. Right?
Yeah.
He comes across like he's got control of himself. No highs, no lows. Now we all know that everybody has them, but
Sure.
he doesn't manifest that he's got that right. For me, uh, gosh, I'm so relaxed. My new wife Karen um, owns a successful business, $80 million a year business. She's coming home from work, and I called her, and she was in the car, and I said, "So where are you? How far are you away from home?" And she said, I'll be home in 30 minutes. And I said, "All right, great. How was your day today?" And she said, "Don't ask. I had a horrible day. It was awful." And I paused, and then I said, "Why would you choose to have a horrible day?" And
Did she appreciate that?
she goes, "You asshole. I didn't choose it. It was horrible." And I'm going, "Actually, you chose it, because the
Uh,
only way you can have a horrible day is if you let that negativity in between your ears.
yeah.
And if you take control of your person, you'll be done with horrible days." And she hung up on me, and then she got home 30 minutes later, and she made dinner, and before she served dinner, she came and gave me a big hug, and she said, "I just want you to know that I'm never ever going to have a horrible day again. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
self-inflicted. I'm done with that."
I love that, man. She's lucky to get to hear that. It's weird with people that don't understand that. Um, I would say it's a bit of an awakening. At least it was for me. And where I can't remember the last bad. I honest to God can't remember the last bad day I had. It's been like 9, 10 months since I had this like moment. Um, and your life shifts where there is no. And are you friends with Rand Stagen? You know
Oh yeah,
Rand?
yeah.
Yeah, so Rand used I'm a graduate of Stagen, and Rand and I was going through hell when I was in that program. I ended up leaving my business, sold my ownership in the business. It was really brutal. It was bad. It was a tough year for me. And I was far from where I'm at right now. And Rand used to say, "What a gift." And I remember he'd say like, "What a gift to learn." And I'm like, "Rand, I don't want to fucking hear this." Like, so when you're in it, it's hard, right? I will tell you now, had I watched myself then, I would have said that to me.
Yeah.
What a gift, man. You're up against the edge right now, and that's just a moment where you grow. That's where the growth happens, right? That's where you get to grow, is when it's hard and you get to overcome and learn about how you show up when things are tough.
Hey, look, I'm
Yeah.
not trying, Darius. I'm not trying to talk you into an Ironman. Okay, all I can tell you is that I've encouraged over 100 people to do Ironman, and the common theme that comes out is um, when I cross that finish line, I realize there isn't anything in life that I can't do.
Uh,
right?
it's funny. No, you're. I've been toying with the idea of starting to do some really hard stuff. I have really bad knees and flat feet, right? Which has been the story I've told myself as to why I don't do that stuff. And I said that's just an excuse, man. And so I will take note of what you just said, and you may hear of me doing some stuff. So
Well, let
point
me let me
note taken.
let me take you here. This leaves the adults and goes to the kids side of the world. So I do CEO coaching all over the world, over the phone, and Zoom, and all that. And and I had one of my clients from Seattle coming down to San Diego. He's going to pass by my house. He's got 3 kids and his wife with him. And he said, "Are you going to be around that day? I can stop by." And I said, "Perfect, stop by. We'll have lunch together." And I had just written my book and published Life by Design. And so I gave him the book. And about 2 months later, I got an email from his 9-year-old son. And his son wrote me and said, "I don't know whether you remember me. My name is so and so. My dad's is being coached by you, and I met you. Blah blah blah. And I just want to let you know that I just finished reading your book, Jack Daly's Life by Design, and I know it was written for adults, but I just wanted you to know that I wanted to thank you. It's making a big difference in who I am." And I want you to know I now have 3 goals that are firm. I'm working on some more, but my 3 right now: 1, I want to start a business; 2, I want to read 50 or more books a year; and 3, uh, I want to get straight A's in all of my classes. And he's 9.
Wow, wow. I have a 9-year-old. I'm gonna have him read your book.
I mean, I mean, like that is wow. I'm
Yeah.
speaking the Southern Seven YPO group in the Southeast. I'm speaking in another month. They're all together in Branson, Missouri. I have 2 sessions. One is for couples, and one is for kids, and it's all about life by design. And and for me, if I can move some kids positively forward and open their eyes to their capabilities, um, whatever I'm doing on the business side actually pales significantly. Uh,
Yeah.
you know, imagine setting a new course that is incredible for your 9-year-old, right?
I love it, man. I love it.
By the
So
way,
let's
you're capable of doing that with your own boy, but a lot of times, just because it's father and son, they're not as good at listening. Um, you bring an outsider in, and even though you were saying the same thing, it's just different. So
yeah, people listen to their uncles. That's why. They listen to their uncles, not their dads.
yeah,
Um, I do love that. I think my younger son would listen to me. I think my older son, my 13-year-old, probably he wouldn't. So it might take a Uncle Jack to have a pep talk with him.
by the way, that
Um,
does change over time. The older one will get on the bus. Yeah.
I love that. What so yeah, so we just got a few more minutes here. Like well, obviously we've been talking all about the stories and a lot. I know a lot of the stuff's in the book, but kind of give an overview of what does the book do, who's it for, how can it help folks, and I'd love to kind of give that, and we can give people some information on where they can find that book, and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, look, the book is called with 300 pages. 150 of it is kind of my story, how I started in life, how I got on to the goal setting, how I got on to leading an exceptional life, a whole bunch of stuff that we talked about here. And it just walks you through kind of 5K, 10K, blah 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 blah. Um, and while I'm doing it in that book, I'm showing you the forms and process and schedule of how I kind of get my arms around all that. Then we get to the second half of the book, which is the appendix. And that's all the templates filled in with my real stuff, and then blanks that you can download. And by the way, you don't need to buy the book. You could just go to my website, jackdalyslifebydesign.com, and you can download the entire appendix. And you can figure out how to fill out the forms just by looking at my filled out forms. So, I look, people have told me it's a fun read and it's very motivational. It's inspiring. It's all of those things. But you know what? It's more about getting people to go to the website, I think, and just showing you what's capable, and then giving you the process and the forms to fill. So I'm doing a tremendous amount of stuff with YPO Gold, which is 50 and above, with couples. So that I did Chicago a couple months ago, and the feedback was, yeah, you're 2 decades older than me, and I thought most of what I was going to accomplish in my life had already occurred, and you opened our eyes and said, "Oh no, there's so much more that you can do," and you're the walking guy on it. And so we're literally going to take a weekend, and with the forms and the templates, we're going to knock out what our next decade's going to be.
I
Woo-hoo!
love I love that, man. So it's Jack Daly's Life by Design. You guys can go there. Check it. The books where all books are sold. Is
Yeah,
that correct?
yeah,
Or
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
people can go check that out. We'll put that stuff in the show notes. I had a question for you because I actually just thought of this while you were saying that. Have you done anything with Tiger 21? Have you
I,
done any work with those
I've
guys?
not. No.
So I'm a Tiger member. I'm gonna reach out to my chair, and because I think like a lot of people when that's kind of where they go after they sell their
Right.
business, the former YPOers. So that there might be a really cool opportunity there because they do a lot of stuff with legacy and family, and it's it's smaller, it's much smaller, but it's there's some interesting folks in that group.
No,
Um,
absolutely. I know many people that are in. I just haven't done anything in that space. Right.
that would be some cool content. So we'll take it offline, but I'm gonna make an intro to my forum or our chapter chair. So would love to
So,
do that.
so Darius, I know we're finishing up here. You started with the session that we did in New York where we met two speakers, Simon Sinek and Jack Daly. Simon and I happen to be really good friends, and I asked him to read the book, and literally I put him on the front cover, and I
Oh,
just want to share what he said after reading the book. Thank God Jack Daly exists. For decades, we hired Jack to teach us how to sell better, yet all the while, what he was actually teaching us was how to be better human beings.
I love it, man. Full circle. We come full circle in this episode. Mr. Jack Daly, you are, like I said, you're a living legend. I feel so lucky to have gotten to know you and to have you in my life, even if it's in small doses like this. And thank you so much for everything you've done and continue to do, and for being an example of how to live an exceptional life. Appreciate you.
Couple months to rim. Kevin Dom and I will pull you through at least one way.
I'm gonna be on a family trip then, but but
That's an acceptable excuse. I like that.
I was like, oh man, I was like, family vacation, but it's a big one too. But if it wasn't, I would probably be pulling myself up to that now. But I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
You bet.
Everybody, listen, share this episode. Everyone's got to listen to this. Life by Design. We all can design our lives better, and Jack Daly is the example and the model. So please go out there, get the book, go to the website, download all the free materials, support Jack. You're supporting yourself really when you support Jack. And share it with the people that need to listen to this. I'm a big fan of us being leaders. We're givers. We're sharers. Share this work. Until next time, peace out. Love you guys.
She's my lover. You are listening to The Greatness Machine, and that's a wrap for today. Listen, if you love what you heard, subscribe to the show on whatever podcast platform that you're tuning in on so that you don't miss any of our future episodes. We have tons of great people coming on, and we're stoked to have you here to enjoy it with us. Leave us a review. Tell us what you love most about this particular episode. We love getting the reviews. We love to see what you guys love most. And if this particular episode, made you think of someone who's leveling up in their business and in their life, print screen, share it with them. Leaders are the best givers, and after all, we're all here to support and grow with each other. And in case you want to see some of the fun behind the scenes shots or some of the things that we're doing, I'm actually writing about this in my weekly newsletter. Go to www.therealdarius.com and subscribe to my newsletter. We're talking about fun things like business and life and mindfulness and cryptocurrencies and gosh, I don't even know, everything and anything, but it's tons of fun stuff I write about. I try to get it out on a weekly basis. You can subscribe at www.therealdarius.com. And with that said, look, thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. I love you. Peace. We're out of here. See you guys on the next one.